I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly. Money talks. The White House focuses on the economy as lawmakers react to the back and forth on international tariffs. Let's make a deal. President Trump sends a message to Iran's leader about the country's building of nuclear weapons. We have analysis. Common sense legislation. Church leaders are among those weighing in after Senate Democrats block a measure to ban biological men from women's sports. Plus, some real star power. Father Robert Spitzer tells us about his new book based on viewer questions from his hit TV show. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the feasts of Saints Perpetua and Felicity. Our top story tonight, President Donald Trump delivers remarks on the economy. U.S. employers added 151,000 jobs last month, but he also discusses Russia, which continues bombing Ukraine, and issues a warning for Iran and what could happen. This all taking place during a news conference in the Oval Office that wasn't on the president's original schedule. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
And before his comments in the Oval Office, President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social that Russia and Ukraine get to the table right now before it's too late, and he threatened sanctions on Russia.
In Ukraine, a nighttime attack targeting energy facilities. Several people wounded. Ukrainian officials say dozens of missiles and drones were used in the Russian barrage. President Trump addresses the ongoing war. Asked if he still believes Vladimir Putin when he says he wants peace.
Yeah, no, I believe him. I think we're doing very well with Russia. But right now they're bombing the hell out of Ukraine. I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine. And they don't have the cards.
And Trump's national security advisor told reporters,
we think we're going to get things back on track. Secretary Rubio, myself and Ukrainian delegation will be meeting in Saudi Arabia next week to get these talks back on track, get the ceasefire in place, and drive peace home.
And on Iran, Trump sent a letter to Iran's leaders seeking to negotiate a nuclear deal. In comments to reporters, Trump did not mention the letter directly, but did say,
there'll be some interesting days ahead. That's all I can tell you. You know, we're down to final strokes with Iran. That's going to be an interesting time. And we'll see what happens. But we're down to the final moments. We're at final moments. You can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
The president also talked jobs and the economy.
We created 10,000 manufacturing jobs in February alone. That hasn't happened in a long time.
And earlier on the North Lawn, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett told us,
yeah, I thought that it was a really, really impressive jobs report.
Also taking place here today, a digital asset summit. President Trump signing an executive order establishing a government reserve of Bitcoin. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, thank you, Owen. And as Owen mentioned, President Trump sent a letter to Iran's leadership seeking negotiation on a nuclear deal. And joining us now to discuss this and more is Behnam Ben Taleb, Iran Program Senior Director and Senior Fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Behnam, good to be with you. First off, your reaction to President Trump's letter.
Great to be with you, Tracy. Look, I think the president is serious when he says, or when he intonates, that all options are indeed on the table, because really everything is on the table right now, from really good to really bad. And it's really up to the Islamic Republic to choose. And it's clear that with the restoration of Trump's first-term policy on Iran, the maximum pressure sanctions policy, he's trying to put the supreme leader of Iran, the hardened military men in the Islamic Republic, to the choice. And that's the choice of engage in good faith and dismantle and disarm yourselves and don't go towards a nuclear weapon, or face the consequences. And I think based on the regime's growing inventory of highly enriched uranium, there are going to be consequences. And just as the president said, we are in the final strokes. I think 2025 really will be a destiny-creating year for those who are looking to stop the Islamic Republic of Iran from getting a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, but I know the Ayatollah Khamenei recently said that engaging in negotiations with America is not intelligent, wise, or honorable. How do you think that they may respond to this?
Listen, I actually think beyond those comments, the entire establishment in the Islamic Republic is a bit befuddled by President Trump. Because on the one hand, He significantly ramped up the pressure. He's the only U.S. president who was willing to pull the trigger to kill the regime's chief terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. He stood with the Iranian people in their hour of need during protests from 2017 to 2020. So Trump has done so much on the Iran file in so little time in his first term. But on the other hand, now he's extending the olive branch of negotiations, and allegedly there may even be a Russian offer to mediate between Trump and Tehran. So I think the regime, by saying no to talks now, is trying to actually generate a greater asking price. They're trying to get America, the superpower, to look like America, the supplicant. And that's why I think they're pushing away from the table on this.
Yeah, and this comes amid, as we know, the high tensions of Israel and the Hamas war with Iran and Israel exchanging direct fire over the course of that war. There's currently a tenuous ceasefire centered on the exchange of hostages. Do you think that could impact things?
Well, certainly, Israel has been engaged for the past 15 months, if not longer, on a multiple front war, 6, if not 7 front war against proxies and partners that the Islamic Republic has created in some battlegrounds versus co-opted in other battlegrounds. I mean, just look at what was happening recently with the Houthi rebels in Yemen, who the Trump administration rightly put back on the foreign terrorist organization list. These are all proxies and partners of the Islamic Republic, and I think we have to understand that there's significant linkage here. If the Gaza ceasefire collapses, I think the Yemeni Houthis will fire again, and that'll be a real test for the Trump administration of, is it going to focus on just the tentacles of the octopus, I mean these proxies, or the head of the octopus, which is the world's foremost state sponsor of terrorism, and that's the regime itself in Tehran.
Behnam, thank you so much. We appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
The Trump administration's trade policy is evolving, sometimes on a daily basis. The newest development puts a nearly 1-month delay on tariffs on all products from Mexico and Canada that are covered by a free trade treaty. Still, they could be back in just a few weeks, and now some lawmakers are sounding off. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales reports. Eric.
Good evening, Tracy. Yes, President Trump decided to delay tariffs until April 2nd on products from Mexico and Canada. After that, Americans could see a 25% increase on goods. Now, Democrats up here on Capitol Hill are warning prices will skyrocket, while Republicans, well, they're painting a much rosier picture. They say the potential discomfort will be worth it in the end, and all that Trump is trying to do is look out for Americans.
Other countries have historically been unfair to us. We just want to level the playing field. That's all President Trump wants to do. If they want to start ratcheting down those taxes and those unfair trade practices, then we'll start ramping down the tariffs as well.
I think tariffs is a tool that can be used in the United States of America to get some of these other countries to be a little bit more fair as it relates to goods and services being brought back and forth from their country to the United States.
However, other Republicans agree with Democrats who say prices will increase, perhaps causing inflation to rise.
It will hurt our industry and push up prices of homes, cars, and so I'm going to continue to argue against tariffs. I hope they'll not go in place, and I hope they won't cause a recession, but already they're talking about exemptions because even the people for them acknowledge that there are real problems with tariffs.
You right now see stock market great instability and decline. You also see declining consumer confidence. You see at least one regional Fed project not just a slow down of the growth rate, but an actual deflated growth rate in the next quarter.
Republican Senator John Kennedy tells me not all tariffs are bad, like the ones Trump is using to threaten Russia in the hopes of bringing a ceasefire in the war with Ukraine.
During Trump's first term, we had tariffs, and they didn't cause inflation. We're in obscure territory here. We haven't had a president in a long time that feels as passionately about tariffs. So if they do more harm than good, I believe the president will pull them back.
Right now, Senator Tim Kaine and other lawmakers are pushing several bills to require congressional approval before a president could impose new tariffs on U.S. allies and free trade agreement partners. Those bills may never make it to the floor in the Republican-controlled Senate. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
We have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a gender transition for children, how a judge is trying to block one of Donald Trump's executive orders on the matter. We have the latest. And a SpaceX test flight gone wrong. We take a look at some of the shocking footage from the latest launch. Welcome back. The latest SpaceX mega rocket test flight has ended in another explosion. Take a look at this right here. This video taken from Florida. You can see the spacecraft's flaming debris falling in the sky. This comes after the rocket exploded and tumbled down and broke apart. This is SpaceX's second unsuccessful test flight this year, and engineers are still trying to figure out why it happened. Well, Democrat senators blocked a measure earlier this week that would have banned biological men from women's sports at institutions that receive federal funding. And now church leaders are reacting, writing on the USCCB website. Bishop Robert Barron and Bishop David O'Connell call the measure common sense, adding in part, quote, "The teaching of the Catholic Church calls us to advocate for the equal dignity of men and women, recognizing that God created us male and female. This legislation would ensure a level playing field for women and girls to compete in fairness and safety with other females." Meanwhile, earlier this week, a judge blocked the enforcement of an executive order by President Trump that would in part ban doctors nationwide from performing gender transition surgery on children. The executive order, titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation, would also revoke federal funding for healthcare providers that perform so-called gender-affirming care, things like mastectomies or prescribing hormone therapy drugs for anyone under the age of 19. And for more, let's bring in healthcare attorney Harry Nelson, partner of Leach, Tishman, Nelson and Hardiman. Harry, good to be with you. We appreciate it. So can you tell us more about this lawsuit that led to the federal judge blocking Trump's executive order?
Sure. A number of rights groups filed a case in Maryland, and there were also a number of states, Colorado, Minnesota, Washington, among them, who filed suit. And the argument was that the executive order that President Trump issued banning any federally funded institutions from providing hormone-related therapy or any kind of gender transition care was a violation of equal protection and also a violation of states' rights to regulate medical practice. So that's what was at issue in these cases and what led to these judges issuing injunctions.
Yeah, I know the ruling by the judge, that's not final, but it does put the enforcement order on hold until the case that is settled. So what exactly does that mean? Can these doctors, can they perform surgeries on children during this time?
Well, at the moment, these two injunctions, in Washington State and in Maryland, do prevent the executive order from going into place. So technically, doctors and hospitals can make the choice while this injunction is in place to continue with these treatments. Of course, healthcare providers don't like instability and uncertainty, and families have to make difficult choices knowing that care may be interrupted based on a court decision coming down the pike in the next couple of weeks or months. So it's a point of uncertainty for both the providers of healthcare and the patients.
Here, let me ask you this. If this executive order, if it goes into effect eventually, could these doctors that perform these surgeries during this time, could they be prosecuted?
While the federal injunction, first of all, this is not an order for criminal sanctions. I should note there are 27 states that now have laws that prohibit, and some of those states criminalize the provision of these surgeries. So doctors are at risk in 27 states now. This particular executive order was to pull federal funding potentially, but not to criminalize this conduct for these doctors. But it's a pretty serious thing for hospitals, depending on Medicare, Medicaid, and other federal funding, to be at risk. And so I think it's a pretty serious sanction all the same.
How do you think this will ultimately unfold?
Look, I think we clearly are at a point where more than half the country, more than half the states have already made a decision they don't want these surgeries done. I do believe that these executive orders will be upheld, and that it will really narrow the choices of institutions that don't receive federal funds that can offer this care. It'll prevent Medicaid funding from being used as it is currently being used around the country. And it's going to lead to hard choices for healthcare providers and patients who are looking for this type of care or need this type of care.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Harry, thank you for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, learn more about the women holding high-ranking positions at the Vatican. Plus, Father Robert Spitzer answers some of your questions about the universe in his new book. As the marks International Women's Day tomorrow. The number of female employees in high-ranking posts in the Vatican continues to grow. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sittergren has more.
The Church herself is a woman, a daughter, a bride, and a mother. With these words, Pope Francis has many times highlighted the importance of recognizing and valuing women's contributions within the people of God. In fact, throughout his pontificate, the Pope has worked to bring more women into leadership roles at the Vatican.
When 28 years ago, I was appointed in the Vatican Library, I was the third woman to work in the Vatican Library. And when I left the Vatican Library 20 years after, half of the staff was already women.
In 2017, Pope Francis appointed Italian art historian Barbara Iatta as director of the Vatican Museums, making her the highest-ranking laywoman in the Vatican's history. More than a career achievement, she sees it as an honor to be entrusted with this responsibility and a chance to inspire others.
Once, after 2 years, I was in Mexico City. I was lecturing in Catholic University of Mexico City. And after my conference, 2 students came to me and they said to me, I want to shake your hands, I want to know you because for us, you are an example. And there I said, oh, I can be an example for young students, for young girls. And so that's how I realized the importance of my appointment and the incredible and amazing choice that Pope Francis made for me.
During Pope Francis's pontificate, the number of women working at the Vatican has grown significantly, increasing from 19 to 24% of the 4,000 total employees. Never before have female employees made up such a large share of the total staff. Just a week before being admitted to the Gemelli Hospital, Pope Francis reaffirmed this commitment, emphasizing in an interview that opening work in the Curia to women is important.
Women bring a kind of alterity, diversity, so I always highlight, that has been my experience through all my pastoral experience, when you have team, especially leadership team with men and women, with also the diversity of vocations, you are always better because you cross-read the questions and you take better decisions when you don't have only one lens to look at the things.
Like Sister Nathalie Becard, who has been the Undersecretary of the Synod of Bishops since 2021, many other women have been appointed to important roles within the Church. In January, Sister Simona Brambilla was appointed prefect of the Dicastery for Institutes of Consecrated Life, making her the first woman ever to head a dicastery. And on March 1st, Sister Raffaella Petrini became the president of the Governorate of the Vatican City-State. Their unique roles may differ, but they are bound together by a shared mission, drawing strength and support from one another in their service to the Church.
I can't leave this call or this mission alone, and I feel very much attuned to many women before me who have been involved in the Church, beginning with the women who were also called as observers at the Second Vatican Council, and also now to many women who are in the local churches, also serving others.
In Rome, Benedict Sittergren, EWTN News Nightly.
And to learn more about the role of women at the Vatican, be sure to tune into Vaticano this Sunday at 3 p.m. Well, finally tonight, a large part of the wildly popular EWTN show Father Spitzer's Universe features questions from viewers. So Father Spitzer decided to throw the book at them. His show explains the relationship among science, faith, and reason. And now, at your fingertips, are the answers to questions to help us understand and share life's great mysteries. In the book, Father Spitzer offers evidence and proofs for common queries like, does the soul exist? And is there a purpose for our suffering? And Father Robert Spitzer joins us now. He is the author of the book and, of course, host of Father Spitzer's Universe right here on EWTN. Father Spitzer, great to be with you. Welcome back. So tell us, why did you write this book and why now?
You know, people obviously give a lot of feedback to EWTN and give a lot of feedback to me as an author. So we just chose those topics. We tried to take the real question people are asking more questions in each of the areas. So if it's like a doctrinal area, like the triune God, or proof for the existence of God, or evidence for a soul from peer-reviewed medical literature, something of that nature, or it could be a moral question concerning abortion or physician-assisted suicide, could be questions like, well, can you explain the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist? Is there any evidence from science for that? So I was trying to take a wide swath of topics that are popular for both readers and viewers, put together kind of a Reader's Digest version of a lot of the questions that I've discussed on the show as well. And as it were, we want to capture two birds with one stone, and this book was the result of it. It's a manageable size for people, and it can count as a little compendium to the most asked questions, especially questions that are being asked by our young people.
And jumping off of that, Father Spitzer, I mean, what are some of the most common questions that are asked, in particular by young folks?
And the Lord has been very generous to us, right? I mean, just in recent times, we have so much evidence for the resurrection and passion of Jesus from the Shroud of Turin. And now that 1988 carbon dating has been completely explained. Furthermore, we got so much evidence for the Eucharistic miracles, from the Eucharistic miracles for the real presence of Jesus's body and blood in the Holy Eucharist. And I don't have to talk about the near-death experiences and terminal lucidity and intelligence in hydrocephalic patients that show the very credible possibility of consciousness surviving bodily death, and even peaks into both heaven and hell in those experiences, and a variety of other things which when you give those to the students, we have basically a program with Sophia Institute for teachers, and it's called for the 7th and 8th graders, it's called Speak the Faith. For the seniors in high school, it's called the Catholic Faith and Science. Obviously, there's a difference in the depth and the complexity of the material from 7th and 8th grade to a senior. But aside from those differences, we cover those topics. And what we find, and this is measured by the ARC study, the Assessment of Religious Knowledge and Belief, that's for the students in Catholic high schools and middle schools, we find that the ARC test finds that you can raise the average score of a senior in high school in belief. I'll just be, right to the point, is a D+. It's a 67, which is a D+, which means their belief is probably not going to survive the freshman year of college. So they may be believing, ostensibly believing people, when they're in high school, but truly when they get to college, they're going to lose their faith, not just in the Catholic Church, but in God, probably going to lose it in a single semester in college. However, if they take our one semester course, the Catholic Faith and Science, as shown in the ARC test, it'll raise that score from a 67 to an 83. That's a B. That B, that's 16 points in the belief score, is the difference between a kid not making it through freshman year and basically, kid getting all the way through college with his or her faith intact and ready to go into a parish life afterwards.
All right, Father Spitzer, thank you so much. Great to be with you. Congratulations on the book. We appreciate it. God bless.
God bless you too.
And just a reminder that Father Spitzer's new book is available at the EWTN Religious Catalog and several online booksellers. Thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night and God bless.